Here's the truth about authenticity. There isn't one version of your authentic self. I know many people have a very strong fear of being inauthentic, and in leadership today, coherence and authenticity and transparency are things that people are really craving in their leaders. And there's a really strong sense of fear of being found out, of being a fraud or described as a fraud or inauthentic. But the truth is, we really don't have one version of authenticity. We have many versions of authenticity, and style shifting is a completely normal behavior. So if you want to start really developing your authenticity as a leader, one of the main starting points is accepting there are multiple versions of you. If you think about it, you would never tell the same stories to your parents as you would tell to your best friend. You wouldn't talk to your boss in the same way you would talk to your colleague. You don't chat to your barista where you order your coffee every morning in the same way that you would talk to your child. We have different ways of communicating with different people in our lives. Each of them is authentic, but very, very different. So how do we balance this need for authenticity and this fear of being inconsistent? Well, I think if you look at all those scenarios, talking to a parent, talking to your best friend, talking to a barista, talking to your child, the thing that doesn't change throughout is your values. So if you're very, very clear as a leader on your values, if you're very, very clear where what I would describe as your red lines are, so the things you are non-negotiable, where those red lines are in your life compared to your values, if you've got those two things really clear in your head, then the chances are that your behaviors, the way that you communicate, will be aligned and will feel aligned. So I think one of the really important starting points is to look at your values, look at your red lines, and then think about, how do I want to be perceived as a leader in my organization? Really important that you start from you. How do I want to be perceived? Not what does my organization expect of me? Because that's different. Because it might be that you are in an organization that isn't actually completely aligned to your values, and the behaviors that they expect are not aligned to where you are. So really important, if you want to find your authentic style of leadership, to start with, how do you want to be perceived as a leader, and sketch that out. So you've got your values, you've got your red lines, and you've got how you want to be perceived as a leader. Now you can begin to see that each time you communicate with all those different people in your lives, that the communication that you're creating is authentic. Now, if we take that into a work context and think about all the different people, all the different departments, all the different levels of seniority that you are going to communicate with across your organization, we want to be making sure that there's a few things happening. Number one, we want to make sure that communication is as truthful as possible. Number two, we want to make sure that you are as aware as possible. And number three, we want to be making sure it's building trust and modeling good leadership. So let's go back to that truthful piece. If we're communicating in a really authentic way, we're very clear what our values are, we're clear with our red lines, we know how we want to be perceived, it means that our communication will be truthful. As in, we will be showing up as ourselves. We will be showing up fully aligned to the message that we're delivering. We will be showing up in service of the people that we're going to be talking to. But we're doing it in such a way that we're demonstrating that we're not infallible, that we're not perfect, that we are genuine. Because if we do that, if we demonstrate when we get things wrong, if we demonstrate we don't know everything, we can't predict everything, particularly at the moment in this incredibly volatile environment, we can't predict what is going to happen. We're not mind readers. So if we're showing up in this incredibly truthful way, it creates a much stronger bond between us and the people that we're talking to. It's also so much less tiring. We don't feel like we're having to mask up, or as one of my clients used to say, she had to get in a tank and swim with sharks every day. So she had to behave like a shark. And that did not suit her personality. It wasn't aligned to her values. So if we're showing up in this more truthful way, we are much less likely to get to a point of burnout. We're much more likely to arrive and communicate without physical and mental tension. So we're vocally and verbally released and can communicate with real transparency. Now, I appreciate that in organizations, we can't be utterly truthful the entire time, but we can be transparent. And that is what teams really, really value from a leader, is transparency. The second thing that I said was awareness. So if we are turning up in a very authentic manner, the chances are we're going to have less of what I call a cognitive split going on. So you're not running a narrative in your head. It's like, oh, I've got to deliver this message. I don't really believe in this message, and the organization want me to deliver it, and it's not really aligned to my values. You've got all this kind of cognitive noise going on, this narrative, and you're trying to deliver the message. You've got this split, and you're not going to be very aware of your audience. So when we found that space of authenticity, when we know who we are as a leader and our boundaries are really nice and clear, and we've aligned ourselves with the messages that we need to deliver, that cognitive split disappears, and it means we can be aware of our audience. It means that we can be present to what is going on for them, to be much more aware and prescient of their concerns and their worries, so we can respond to them. And when we can respond to our audience in the moment, not that it's absolutely prepared, because remember, we can't predict everything, but you can respond in the moment. You can adapt to what's going on because you're aligned, you're feeling authentic, then they will feel seen and heard. And when your teams, when your audiences feel seen and heard, there is a massive upswing in trust. And organizations need trust. We need to feel like we can trust our leaders. There's such a backlash at the minute of people feeling like they've been lied to, that they have been misled. And so the need for transparency and trust is so high in organizations right now. So the more transparent you can be, the more you're going to build trust. The more aware you can be, the more you're going to build trust in organizations, in teams, in projects. Because at the end of a day, an organization, a team, a project will only move at the speed of trust. So if there's strong trust, if they feel they're being led by an authentic leader, if the trust is there, the speed of that, the change, the transformation will be high. If there's low trust, the speed of transformation will be low. So developing that ability to be truthful, to be aware, will build trust in your teams, which will build productivity. And not only that, but all of those three things put together means that you are modeling what leadership looks like now. We're beginning to ditch, and more leaders are ditching the old version of command leadership and moving into servant leadership, moving into this space where we're leading with purpose, where we're leading groups of people who essentially are volunteers. Our workforce is so mobile. They can go anywhere at any point. They're going to follow you because they trust you, because they believe in you, because they see the authenticity of your leadership. So you are modeling what it looks like to lead now. And so that you're going to be able to succession plan in ways that you wouldn't have been able to if you weren't leading in the most authentic way possible. I hope that this has been useful for you. I love talking about authenticity and authentic leadership and what that means to you. If you are sitting there thinking, oh gosh, I'm not quite sure what my authentic self is, I'm not sure how I lead authentically, I would love to have a conversation about this. Book in a discovery call. Let's have a conversation. Let's see where those sticky points are, what you're finding really difficult, and let's work through those to get you to the other side so you can start to be a much more authentic leader in your organization, aligned to your values, delivering real value to your teams, feeling truthful, aware, avoiding burnout, all those awful things. So if you're interested to have that conversation, book in a discovery call. I'd love to have a conversation with you about it. Take care. We'll speak soon. Bye for now.